everybody. This is Tim Green with Rattle Magazine. Welcome to Poets Respond Live, our Sunday open mic, exploring current events through the lens of poetry. So glad you could join me. We have, as always, we begin the show with the poet that we published today, and then we end on a haiku, so look forward to those two. But before we begin, I should say that Rattle is a publication of the Rattle Foundation, a 501c3 nonprofit working to promote the practice of poetry. We've been in continuous publication since 1995 and are unaffiliated with any other organization. We just do this because we love poetry, and I know you love poetry, so do click that like button or subscribe, or make sure that you are following us. Whatever you can do to click something to tell the robots that you like us really helps. That's all we ask. We just love sharing this stuff and getting together every week, several times a week, really. And the only thing we want you to do is to click a like button or something, so please do that right now. I'm so glad you could find us. It's daylight savings time. If you noticed, I'm a little groggy, a little extra groggy, a little more than normal. I don't know, I'm not a morning person to start with, and then waking up an hour early is not pleasant. But with the modern technology, everybody knows at least what time it really is, because everyone's here, so thanks so much. So we have Nivedita Karthik here, James Cicillo, Sigrid Saradun, good to see you. Kathy Gibbons from Texas, hello. And over on YouTube, we got Richard Westheimer, Nivedita twice. Nivedita's over there too. Warren Nedvornik, Usha Kishore, Paulette Warren. Good to see you. Happy Sunday morning. Okay, so let's get into Poets Respond Live, and what we're going to do first is call up Miguel Garcia, today's poet. Let me fix this. There we go. Hey, Miguel, good to see you. Let me pull you into the stream right here, and let's see. We want the open mic background. There we go. So, how you doing today, Miguel?
Good. Doing well. Thanks.
Yeah. So, thanks so much for sharing this poem with us. I really loved. Both touching. On an emotional, personal kind of level. Just the story about your grandfather, but then also. For everybody who is home and it hasn't read the poem for today, the poem for today is Miguel Barreto Garcia's Grandpa's Mixtape. Let me put it on screen really quick here. This is Grandpa's Mixtape, and the story is or the basis of the story, if you scroll down, is that the inventor of the mixtape, Lou Ottens, passed away this week, and I never heard of Lou Ottens, So Miguel, do you want to tell us a little bit just about how you came across the story? Did you know about Lou Ottens before yourself, and just how did the poem come to be?
Yeah. So I also did not know about Lou Ottens up until the obituaries were coming out, and I guess where it was really the triggering experience was when I read through the story. It's I've had these experiences with my grandfather where we were just playing around with cassette recorders, and my grandpa back in the day was always liked to sing, and we always find time fiddling around recording songs, and he was always a big Nat King Cole fan, so he mostly covered for a lot of these Nat King Cole songs. So
yeah, and this Lou Ottens, who I'll put up a picture. This is from the New York Times obituary. He was 94. He led the team at Philips that changed the audio world in 1963 by introducing a small, portable way to play the record, the cassette. And then here he is on. That's Lou Ottens. This is for the New York Times. And there he is holding a cassette in 1988, 25 years after he invented it. And just the cassette tape really was. You never really think about it much, but it was such an innovation to allow time shifting for the first time, and to allow personal control over what you're doing is I don't know. It's just it's so important. And I wonder. It made me think. My grandfather was had a bunch of patents at Kodak and worked at Kodak making cameras, and I never talked to him about. I mean, he was a very shy, kind of silent guy, and I never wonder if it occurs to him how much. What he did is like it's so key to people's memories, you know? Like I wonder if Lou Otten appreciates how much an influence he had on somebody like you who had this intimate connection with your grandfather. And somebody else just already on the on our Facebook page mentioned the same kind of experience. Let me let me see who it was. This was just a comment below your poem on Facebook, but someone else said the same thing. Someone else, it was right here. Jim Gold said, one night while we were all listening to an audio cassette, my grandfather had recorded the Robert Service's tales of the Yukon. And suddenly there's my grandfather's voice, testing 1, 2, 3, then proceeds to recite the cremation of Sam McGee. Talk about chills running down my spine. Yeah, it's just such a wonderful way to preserve your memories of people, you know, because you lose. I think maybe the sound of someone's voice is the first thing you lose when you lose them.
Yeah, exactly. It's the one that's the hardest to recover, and trying to keep the idea of like this, like basically the sound of someone you love is always like so precious at the same time. It's also like the one that like has the immediate emotional connection, like once you hear someone's voice, and all those memories just like triggers. And that's why like these cassette players were always like very intimate for me, because it kind of was like my only connection right now with my grandfather. Sure, like there are pictures, but it's always like a very different experience. It's more visceral when you actually hear someone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And how long did you work on this poem? Just wondering. It's a pretty long one. Was it sort of a all week? The article is the 11th. That's a pretty quick turnaround for that.
Yeah, I mean, I had like 2 days to work on the poem. I guess. I mean, like, I've always had this fascination of trying to put my grandfather in the poem, and I've always just wanted to find every opportunity to find like ways to put them to just have him on the page.
Mm-hmm.
And then when the cassette, when I read through this article, it's like, whoa, like all of these memories of me and my grandpa, like just fiddling around with the record with the cassette player, just like started coming in. It's like basically just the poem was just like writing for itself, and I was like just putting things down.
Yeah.
So,
and tell me a little about your grandfather too. Why, you know, I've noticed in other poems that you've submitted for Poets Respond over the years or so, that you do write about your grandfather. What is it that draws you to writing about him?
Well, because I grew up with my grandfather, especially like as a teenager in the Philippines. So we really had like a very close connection. I've had that close connection with my grandfather. And like since he passed away like a year ago, I've always tried to find ways to just keep him somehow alive through the day. And it's only in those instances when I miss him, for example, where like all the stories that he shared was something that like I realized like, oh, I just actually took this for granted, and now like I'm now trying to like trying to put all of these things, record and remember them. So yeah, like so among of the like pivotal experiences. So him as a kid, for example, I think I submitted some posts about him like as a 10-year-old during the Second World War, and it was like so his one of his legs was shot, so he walks with a limp throughout his life, and and he was also just very generous in bringing me up, like raising me up as well as a teenager. So that was. So it's essentially, so I do want to always like provide a tribute to him, and in many ways try to elegize him as well through the page, because he has been a very important figure and force in whatever decisions and how I eventually became me. Basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's such an important thing. Do you have enough where it's going to become a book eventually? Do you think?
I hope so. Like I try. I mean, I've been just writing. I mean, my purpose is basically just to provide a record of my memories with my grandparents. If eventually it might come out as a book, then that would be that would be great as well.
Yeah, yeah. Well, very cool. Well, do you want to read the poem again, or since it's longer, would you rather me just play it? It's up to
I
you.
mean, I can read the post.
Okay, yeah, sure. I'll put it up screen. Go ahead and why don't you read it?
Right. Okay. All right. Grandpa's mixtape. The yellow wood of a number 2 pencil found its way into the round mouth and small tooth of the cassette tape, rewinding magnetic memory back to side A. The radio cassette player's mouth was hungry of forgetting that it was about to bury the recording with the newest song played by the local FM station. The recording began with a breath, out from the sill of the lips and into the reel, a message saddling on silk magnets. The unmistakable sound of an empty room, disturbed only by a cough or the clearing of a throat. The rain outside the room trickled into white noise, and out of the sonar mist was a testing, 1, 2, 3, testing coming out of nowhere. The amorphous sound rising from the silhouette of tape, forming into the shape of my grandpa, his distinct baritone voice walking from the corner of my eye to the center of the living room. He sat there, leaning his head towards the cassette recorder. I could only imagine who Grandpa was imagining singing to. Was it Grandma, or his future kids, or grandkids? My grandpa was singing the album of his life, the kind of greatest hits that no one else has a copy but me, as if the word singular could mean special, as if secret is, I have you to myself alone. Air inside the room was a thick magnetic force, reeling my body into the smallness of my childhood, wide-eyed and wondered. My grandpa was large in imagination, but he walked me through each question with curiosity, that he was himself a child, recording the world through every wrinkle and liver spot. If there was a way for a pencil to spool my grandpa back into a present, if I could turn the cassette far and fast enough, time travel would unravel, and my grandpa would be doing his number live. But that is not the sort of physics we live in this world. We only have the time we have, and space, thousands of cassette tapes filling dozens of boxes waiting. The body defying its physics through memory, each plastic and magnet, a muscle, an organ, a touch, a hand running through my hair, a kiss on my forehead, a hand holding my hand. And I have thousands of them, versions of my grandfather as tracks of sides A and B that would outlast me. I lean my ears closer to the owl-like cassette player eyes and hear Grandpa speak, sing, his steps walking towards the window, watching the rain water the backyard. The recorder found its way close to his chest, a planet hidden among light years and bright stars, heartbeat transmitting a message into the future. Nat King Cole was on the background playing You're My Everything, while my grandpa's baritone voice is a fine strand of hair swaying on my arms as if the living room was a mixtape played on repeat.
Wonderfully touching poem. Thanks so much, Miguel, for joining us and sharing that. And I love to, I mean, both when the news has personal relevance, it just makes it come alive. You know, that's one of the things we're doing with Poetry Respond is making news come alive through personal experience. And then also just highlighting stories that I hadn't seen or you know, most people haven't heard of this, you know, Lou Otten or thought about mixtapes. You know, it's just a way to make the news come to life. So thanks so much for sharing it, Miguel. It was really a pleasure. Always a pleasure talking to you.
It was a pleasure as well, Tim.
Yep. Bye.
See you.
Yeah, that was Miguel Barreto Garcia with Grandpa's Mixtape. And now, this is an open mic, of course, and let's see who we have in the line. I'll put up the numbers right now. The numbers have been on screen, but if you'd like to participate, what you do, if you haven't submitted your poem, if you submitted it, I can just put it up on screen that way. But if you haven't, then email it to openmic@rattle.com. That's openmic@rattle.com right now. Then I can show the poem on screen as you read it. You'll have to read your own copy, and so make sure you have it up on a file or on paper or something in front of you too when you call in. And then you have two options for calling in. If you'd like to do it over video, you can do it with Skype. That's the only option, Skype, and send me a chat message to Rattle Poetry, all one word. Angela Gartner's here, Richard Westheimer, Usha Kishore, Mike Bales, Jessica Arigato is here, Nivedita is here. So we have a bunch of people lined up already. If you'd like to get in line, send me a chat message on Skype, and that's how we'll do it. And then if you would like to call over the phone, though, it's 1 for the national code number of the United States, 818-850-7727. That's 818-850-7727. Just let it ring a few times, then hang up, and I will call you back when it's your turn. We'll make sure we're going to get back into shorter shows, I think, as the spring comes for the Northern Hemisphere, and more people are out doing stuff because it's a nice weather. But we'll get to as many people as we can in the next, 45 minutes or so. Well, is the max. We have 45 minutes. But let's call up first. Let's do and one thing I should tell you, too, is that I'm going to be calling from the future. There's a 30-second or so delay. So I will call you and then turn off your stream wherever you're watching this, Facebook, YouTube, whatever it is. Turn that off when and just talk through the phone, because otherwise there's two Tims and that's confusing. Okay, so let's call first. Usha Kishore. Let's see. I don't know if this will work. Let's see. Yeah, we'll see. Hey, Usha, how you doing? Let me pull you in the. Yeah, here we go. Would you like to be on video or just audio?
I'm happy for the video.
Okay, so the video button is between the hang up and the mute microphone. There's a little icon. Just click that and you should come in. Yeah, here you go.
I have.
Hello, good to see you.
Hi, nice to see you too, Tim.
Yeah, let me. What's going on here? This button. You have to. There we go. Okay. So where are you calling from? I think you've been on before, right?
No, I haven't.
Oh,
No.
Okay, yeah.
My first time.
Okay, well, so where are you calling from?
I'm from the UK, the Isle of Man.
Ah, excellent. And then you mentioned your poem in the chat window. Which was it? It was Color of the Unborn. Yeah, I do have it here. Unborn. Let's see.
You do, okay.
And it submittable doesn't take it away from me. So I wonder if there's anyway. So I still have it. Yeah, Color of the Unborn. Do you want to explain a little bit about what inspired the poem?
What the inspiration was, it was the recent Oprah Winfrey interview with Harry and Meghan, and it's an eye-opener to colonial attitudes in the UK. Race and ethnicity are difficult topics in the UK, as it is elsewhere. And people are hesitant to consider racism as a social, institutional, or structural problem. The poem addresses this issue and indicates that the racism prevalent here needs to be talked about more and comprehensively addressed.
Excellent. Yeah. It is. Let's see. I'm trying to find the right file again. There we go. Yeah, I didn't actually see that interview, but it does. I don't know. I mean, it was what everybody was talking about for sure. On all week.
Yes.
Okay, why don't you go ahead and read it? The Color of the Unborn. Well, I was going to ask. That's what I was going to ask. Sorry. What is the mood about it in the UK? Because I've seen U.S. reactions to it. But what do people in general feel about it in the UK? Because there's a different feeling of like, are people sort of rallying around the royal family, or is it like very split, or is it are people more on Meghan Markle's side?
It is very divisive
Mm-hmm.
in the sense it is a split, as you say. One section of the population say that it was wrong of them to do this, and the younger generation feels, and people of color like me, I'm Indian, feel that this issue should be addressed, and it is very brave of them to come forward with this. So there are two opposing views.
Yeah, that makes sense for sure. Well, okay, why don't you go ahead and read it? It's The Color of the Unborn. I'll put it on screen for everybody who's watching.
This poem is not about individuals, but it challenges negative attitudes and perspectives on race and ethnicity. Shall I read it?
Yes, go ahead.
Color of the Unborn. At twilight, I shed my skin and melt into darkness, because I was born in the darkness of dawn. I dress myself in alien robes to write in an alien tongue. I am blessed by an alien spirit who sings to me in storms and shelters me in mists. I dreamt in valiant poetry of a kingdom that traced its lineage to the heavens. I thought I could live in eternal spring, singing the hymns of darkness which gave birth to light. Fragrances of my dark orient world light up your temples, and the God you worship was born in darkness in a darker land. What worship is this that is veiled in bigotry? Which guardian, which high priest is this who asks the color of the unborn?
Yeah, that's an excellent phrase. Good way to end that poem. Usha Kishore with Color of the Unborn. Thanks so much for sharing that, Usha.
Thank you very much for having me, Tim.
Yeah, my pleasure. Hope you can call in again soon.
Thank you.
Bye. Oops. That was Usha Kishore with Color of the Unborn. Always love first-time callers. Let's go to a veteran and see how Richard Westheimer's doing. Hey, Richard, how you doing today?
I am as unsettled by daylight saving time as you. Just 3 hours later for me.
Yeah. Do you know why they do it? I know you're you're into gardening and the land and kind of stuff. Do you the story I was just thinking about this morning? The story I'd always heard is that kids going to school, especially in the rural areas, that they didn't want them to go to school when it was dark out. But then I realized that daylight savings time is in the summer, and the regular time is the winter time. So what is the story? I got to look it up because I don't even know.
I'm not sure, and my guess is that there's a mix of some agricultural roots, but no pun intended. Although it was nicely done.
It was.
But also sustaining, their business reasons. Mm-hmm. That people stay out later shopping and engaged in activities where they spend money. Because I don't know if you figured this out yet, but money.
The world wouldn't even spin, so we have to be thankful to money for making the world go around.
It just propels.
Otherwise, exactly, yeah. Because otherwise, there wouldn't be any daylight savings time. So,
yeah. Speaking of propelling, that poem this morning reminded me when I was younger, and this dates me as if my face doesn't, that I had a little small, before cassette tapes came out, a little small reel-to-reel tape.
Oh, yeah.
And I would sit it by the radio.
Mm-hmm.
And when the top 40 songs would come on, I'd wait for one that I wanted on my mixtape.
Yeah.
So this was early 60s, and I'd press the play button, and then I'd have on a little reel-to-reel my own very lo-fi mixtape.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we did that in the 80s when I was that age too.
Oh, okay.
And and I don't know. There's something I think about just having to delay gratification or something like that makes it more special. Like being able to just put your iPod on and do whatever song you want, it loses the magic in some way of having to wait. Like putting in the effort to wait for the song, then you have to be ready, ready to push it as soon as it comes
and of
on.
course
And you miss the first couple, bars a lot of the time.
Or you'd have the DJs.
Exactly, yeah. Getting the timing right was such an effort. And then, you'd redo songs if you didn't get it, get the timing in, you'd try it again.
Oh, I am so glad that this persisted into the 80s.
It did, and then then burning CDs and ripping and Napster and stuff came and ruined it all. But
yeah, although it's nice to ask my little device over here to play a tune for me.
Yeah. So what poem did you want to share? You had is it?
Inside the body of a man, I can see into the future, and this was based off of a Radiolab story that synthesized a couple scientific reports about how they started tracking variants.
Mm-hmm.
And that fascinated. It's sort of like it felt like a hologram. A person was a hologram because they looked inside a person to see how the variants were evolving. Oh, yeah. And then they figured out months later that that's exactly how it happened out in the wild.
Mm-hmm.
That how the variants unfolded mathematically and all that. So the story referred to the body of a failing man as a crystal.
Yeah, I'm glad you could. I really, really like this poem a lot. It was it was in the top. I don't know if it's nice to tell you or not. I was considering it very closely, and I chose the other one because we've done so many coronavirus poems. I try to mix it up as much as I can, but it was a really good poem. So I'm glad you could share it here, Richard.
Oh, thank you. Inside the body of a man, I can see into the future. And the epigraph from William Shakespeare, only my plague thus far I count my gain, that she makes me sin, awards me pain. If coronaviruses were angels dancing on punctuation, a sentence would end in a frenzy of 100 million identical go-go boys and girls doing the frug, or maybe they're spiky-haired ravens grooving to house music, breakbeating, infectious, and loud. Early on, we learned all the ways these tiny club druggers could find their way inside to the moist parts of us, to burrow cell by cell into our being. We were told how to defend ourselves. Don't eat bats. Don't cruise. Don't touch your face or kiss. Don't breathe. Scrub your hands. Scrub your produce. Don't be a meat packer or a nurse or an Uber driver or an actor. Don't be old or ill or alone or homeless. If you do, expect the little buggers to move in quick, where those dancing angels will shed their wings and burrow, halo first, cell by cell, fevered, feeding, fucking 1,000 times over until all the newborn angel virons burst their hosts, each to begin again and again and again. Each identical, the same, a million billion inbred, till one is born different. A bad boy, irresistible, more infectious than the rest. All this beneath the skin where outrage has always festered before passing from host to host in a spray of spittle. These novel, spike-haired angels multiply until they too burst forth. The same deviants that once staked claims in a weakened host now take hold out in the wild, among the strong. We discover, too late of course, that outside looks like inside. The world is like a body, is like the world.
Yeah, I love that ending, especially. Great poem. Great poem, Richard. Thanks for sharing that.
Thanks, Tim. Good to see you this morning, or whatever time it is today.
Yeah, whatever week it is. Yeah, thanks so much, Richard.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye. Yeah, it was Richard Westheimer with Inside the Body of a Man, I Can See Into the Future. Just a wonderful poem with a great ending, too. And I think, everyone's worried about the variants and it coming around like the flu again. I'm really not, actually. There's the beta coronaviruses have an error checking mechanism. So they evolve much more slowly than, or mutate much more slowly than other vaccines do, or viruses do. And the only reason it's able to mutate like it has is because it's so many infections. But once we get the RT down, there won't be as many hosts going on. There won't be as much replication. And I think I'm not too worried about the vaccine failing and things like that. So, but excellent I just love looking at the science, of course. Let me see who is next. Let's call up Nivedita Karthik and see what she has for us today. We've got a Rooter story. Ooh, it's a concrete poem from Nivedita.
Hello.
Hey, Nivedita, how are you doing this morning?
Hey, Tim. I'm doing great, thank you. It's evening.
Oh, yeah, that's right. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing great, thank you. And you are 1 hour early for me because of daylight savings at your end.
Yeah, is that good for you or bad? Do you like this new time?
It's much better for me. It means I can go to bed at an appropriate time.
That's good.
There's at least an advantage to somebody.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, in my opinion, would be to make daylight savings permanent, because I like as a night person, I like the later sunset, and I like letting you go to bed early. so instead, there's a like a movement all the time to try to end daylight savings time, but we got to make sure we say it precisely here and make it permanent, because it's better that way. Anyway, Russian ballerina performs Swan Lake on ice to save Bay was your story. I have this up because I knew there'd probably be a good image or video. So could you explain a little bit about what this is?
So apparently there is this bay in Russia that people are planning to build, I think, 1 or 2 silos on. Mm-hmm. And this ballerina was actually part of the Mariinsky ballet theater group in Russia, which is like one of the world famous ballet groups there, apart from the Bolshoi Ballet Company. Mm-hmm. And so in protest to that, she actually filmed herself doing a couple of pliés and pirouettes on the ice in -5-degree freezing cold weather, wearing just her ballet tutu and the point shoes. So that was something amazing to me.
Oh,
the
wow.
lens people could save the environment, which is needed, actually, thinking about it. So I just thought it was slightly different, not too depressing of a news story, but something we all need, but a slight deviation from my usual type of fun stories.
Yeah, it's definitely, a beautiful and also freezing. Oh my gosh. Yeah, really cool. So thanks for showing us this. And now your poem, let me put your poem up, is a concrete poem in the shape of a swan.
Yes, it is.
So why don't you go ahead and read it whenever you're ready.
Great. Swan Lake, an ode in protest. The shimmering silver moon lights up the sky as the pretty swan turns to a pretty ballerina to dance on the glimmering diamond lake for the love of her prince. Every spin, every pirouette disturbs the surface. The ripples, felt by those watching on the shore, their feathers all ruffled. Dawn glows on the horizon, faint and pink, like the tulle tutu worn by the dancer that now disintegrates to merge with the dawn sky and the blush of the lake. A girl with a dream and a pair of point shoes dances her dreams under the moonlight, only to be awakened by the harsh reality of dawn. Swan Lake, an epic.
Excellent. Thanks so much for writing and sharing that, Nivedita. Always such a pleasure to hear from you and see what you highlight this week. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Tim. It's always lovely talking to you too. Have a lovely Sunday.
Yep. Have a good night.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. So Nivedita Karthik with Swan Lake, an ode in protest. Let us see. Let's see who we have lined up. We have Mike Bales, Angela Gartner, Jessica Aridago. I wonder if I'm going to have to put this. Let's see. Where should I put this? Lost Dreams. I wonder, can I open? Okay, so that's what I'll do. And then I can probably... Okay, so let me call up... let's call up Jessica. Oh wait, what's she? I will try to be when it's live. It's shareable. Let's see. So Jessica here. This is Jessica Irrigado. I'll try calling. Let's see. Not sure if Jessica's here. She asked if I would read this poem. Oh, and Jessica's not here online. Let's see for Poets Respond Live. I'm trying to figure out what the article is. Okay. Let's see. Well, I don't see. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna wait and see if Erica or Jessica replies, and then I'll just read this poem later. If not, that's what we'll do. So let's call up right now. Let's call up Mike Bales. My dog's barking a lot out there. I don't know if you can hear that. Our neighbors have two little dogs, and my dog wants to play really bad, I think. Okay. Let's call it Mike Bales right now. Hey, Mike, you're live with Rattle. Did you want to share a poem?
Absolutely. This is about Andrea Sahori.
Oh, yeah.
A reporter was arrested a year ago for Black Lives Matter protest. She's covering one.
Mm-hmm.
And she's arrested.
Yeah, and
her trial was last week.
Yeah, do you want to tell just a little bit more about why she was arrested and what was going on at the trial?
I read this in the Des Moines Register. It's also been on public radio. There was a huge Black Lives protest at this mall in Des Moines.
Mm-hmm.
She's across the street, and the crowd is told to disperse, and she didn't. I think one story was that she didn't even hear the order.
Mm-hmm.
She was arrested. There are a lot of reporters arrested for covering Black Lives Matter protests. And she was there. I don't think she's wearing her ID, but she said she's part of the press, and she's arrested anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Failure to disperse. And this is written in the form of pantoum. It's called The One Who Stayed. The crowd dispersed, but she stayed near the intersection to cover the news. But she stayed after the chance faded to cover the news that people had found their voice. After the chance faded, a reporter who proclaimed that people had found their voice was taken into custody. A reporter who proclaimed the public needed to know was taken into custody, treated like a criminal. The public needed to know the story of a woman doing her job was treated as a criminal after the crowd dispersed.
Excellent. Thanks so much for sharing that, Mike. Was that what did you say was a pantoum?
It's a pantoum where you move the second line up to the first line, the fourth line up to the third line in the succeeding stanzas.
Yeah,
if
excellent.
If I'm stuck in writing something, I use the pantoum, and it kind of drives me through the poem.
Yeah, it's a great form, and for driving through, and the echoes always really feed into the poem. Great poem. Thanks so much for sharing that, Mike.
Okay, thanks for having me.
Yep, my pleasure. Bye.
All right, bye.
It was Mike Bales with The One Who Stayed. Another story, a smaller story you might not have heard of, but an important issue. Mike Bales, The One Who Stayed. Let us see. Next up, we will do Patricia Rockwood. I think and Angela Gardner. So we'll do Patricia Rockwood, then Angela Gardner. Then I'll read Jessica's poem. And it's already 9:40, so we might do a whole hour this morning. Let's call up Patricia Rockwood right now and see what Patricia has for us. Hello, Patricia. How are you doing today?
Hey, Tim. I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing great. Did you want to come on video or just audio?
Sure. Let me get there it is.
There you come, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Hello. So where are you calling from? I can't remember now.
Sarasota, Florida.
Ah, that's right. And what poem do you have for us? I have The Year Without Lipstick, but what is it about?
You're without lipstick. It's kind of a light referral to just this past year, a reflection on the fact of our year anniversary of the quarantine.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, why don't you go ahead and read it? I have it up.
Okay. The Year Without Lipstick. In April, I took a selfie in the car wearing a new shade of lipstick just before putting on a mask to walk into the grocery. A girl has standards was the caption on Insta. By June, I had ditched the lipstick except on Zoom. I had to look good for my students and coworkers, right? But by August, even Zoom had descended to naked lips. I expanded my collection of Burt's Bees lip balm. Through the summer doldrums, all I wanted was the comfort of chapstick. Behind the ever-present mask, I felt as if no one would ever see my lips again. Then October put its coat on, and November and December stayed home for the holidays. My face threw up its hands and said the hell with it, and packed the lipstick away for good. Now the year has turned a corner, and it still feels like a swollen door that you have to push and push to open just a little bit. I haven't thought about lipstick for months.
Very interesting. I love that last stanza too. That like a swollen door, you have to push and push open. Just like great way to put it.
I feel like that.
Yeah. Thanks so much for sharing that, Patricia.
You're welcome. Have a good day.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
It's Patricia Rockwood with The Year Without Lipstick. Thanks, Patricia, for sharing that. Let's see. And then we have Angela Gartner. Let's call up Angela. Hey,
Hi.
Angela. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Good to see you. What do you have for us today?
I was gonna read something I wrote like a week ago.
Uh-huh.
It's called Songbird's Return.
Okay. Did you send it somewhere? Is it unsubmittable or on email?
Yeah, it's unsubmittable from
Okay.
last week. I'm
Gotcha.
sorry.
Oh, no problem. Let me
I wanted to say I definitely connect with Miguel as far as in the grandpa wise, because I'm always writing about my grandfather and always trying to put him in my poems as well, because he's still he's one of the most important people in my life. So it's nice to someone else who loves their grandpa like I do.
Yeah, for sure. It is. It's so important to keep those people alive, like you said, Yeah. And so Songbird's Return, what was that about?
Well, there was this bird. I as a journalist, years back, I wrote a story about a bird watching society, and I went around in the woods with one of them and saw their kind of process and everything about. I've always been kind of fascinated with birds, and that actually helped my fascination a little bit because I got to know like kind of what it's really all about. And in the news, there was this black brown babbler, and basically this bird hasn't been around for 170 years. And I mean, this is like huge for, the bird watching world. But then I started thinking like of all the things, like maybe that bird was happy not being found because now like everybody is going to go out and see him or her. Like, I don't know if they said which it was, but I vision it a he. So everyone's now he's going to be looked at and sought out even more. And it's kind of just nice to be, without anybody else, just yourself and, dealing with your own family and not having all these worries and all these things where people are around you. Like it's just being you and not worried about all these little trivial things that we worry about. And also it's also about, you don't always need your name in bright lights. It's like, and that's what you don't always need that attention and that validation. So that's kind of what this poem is more about, like me, sometimes needing that validation when sometimes it's just better off to kind of be in your own world and and not have all those other worries.
Oh, really well said. Yeah, thanks so much for sharing this. This is Songbird's Return. Why don't you go ahead whenever you are ready?
Okay. There's something magical about being discovered, unless you are a bird like the black-browed babbler, minding his own business among the tree leaves, tasty worms hanging from his mouth, feeling pleased, the perpetual blue skies with 4 steps in reach. Beside a pool of water, he dipped his soul in the silence. The hands came around him in a hurried existence. Watchers celebrated the long-awaited reunification. Had he known the plight of our fractured existence? Wishing to return to flight, did he stare with hopeful resilience? For him, it was better to stay away from the unraveling and be hidden, singing songs in an unconstrained, melodious voice with no one listening.
Ah, great. Excellent poem. Thanks so much. Songbird's Return. Thanks, Angela, for sharing that.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Yep, you too. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Okay, it was Angela Gardner with Songbird's Return. And now let me do. I'm gonna have to find a way to import this really quick. Let me. First of all, let me call up Jessica again. Make sure she's not here. But as I do that, I'm gonna have to find a way to import. Let's see. Let's turn this into a different screen. Is this gonna work? Yep, that works. Okay. So this is here. Let me get this off. A lot of things to juggle around here. Okay, so this is Lost Dreams, and this is a poem by Jessica Arigato, who asked if I would read it for her. Lost Dreams. I'm not sure on what the news story is about, so maybe you can figure it out with me. Lost Dreams. You took away the found a new starting way. Booked stars fell off the dream, hitting darkness theme. Unhooked beam lost the light ray, far from Ames Bay. Blurred vision or foggy alley, either way blindness lay, to relay dreamland lane, to a delusional glimmer slay. So just you in any way can slay darkness day and make me sway. Interesting poem. I wonder if that it feels like a daylight savings time poem. Maybe I just have daylight savings on the brain or something, but the slay the darkness day. I like the darkness day. If we called it darkness day, maybe we could get rid of this daylight savings time for good if we just started calling it darkness day. You know, the words, you know, the emotional content of words matter more than the actual content very often. Okay, let's see. It's 9:50 for me, so we have about 10 minutes possibly. If anybody else would like to participate, I'll put the numbers on screen one last time. So email a poem to openmic@rattle.com. That's openmic@rattle.com, and then send me a chat message to Skype at rattlepoetry if you'd like to be on video. I'll just wave back and then call you up in a second. If you would like to join over phone, it's 818-850-7727. It's 818-850-7727. And I think we will go for a blast in the past, and let's see what was going on in 2015 on this day in history. And the closest date would be March 15th. And we have a poem here by Damien Caudill. And this was How Florida Lost Its Edge. And let's see what this is about. I'll just read it. There's no audio. So I'll read the note and I'll read the poem. And this will give you a chance, if you would like to participate still, to call in or Skype message me and send your poem on over. But if not, we'll just wrap up the show after this. But this is, here we go. We got to drop this down. We got to pull this over. Drop that thing. Okay, so this is Damien Caudill's, or maybe Caudill's note. Earlier this week, a curious set of allegations came to light about the specific ways in which Florida's Republican Governor Rick Scott has chosen to micromanage the state's Department of Environmental Protection's language on climate change. Namely, that the terms climate change or global warming should not be used at all in any official communications. emails or reports. The unwritten policy reeks of paranoia, so I thought it was only in good faith that I take things a step further by pushing that uneasiness to the surface of a poem written from the perspective of someone on the inside of the state's PR machine. And this was March 15th, 2015. This is Damien Caudill. And this is How Florida Lost Its Edge. In department emails, we called it baptism by volume. How watered down we already were. Even then, the state hired private contractors to scrub our hard drives of submersibles to cut any sentence that invoked an irritable tide. Sure, these were the come-to-Jesus days in Miami, but that winter Tallahassee had caught itself a sniff of bewildered snow. Nixed all of the literature on immersion, said our landlocked governor. And of course, those of us with pensions did. I remember that landlocked governor. I love that. And of course, those with pensions did. Great little poem there by Damien Caudill back from March 15th, 2015. That's 6 years ago now. We've been doing Poetry Respond for almost 7 years, which is I don't know. At some point, we're going to have to do an anthology, like some kind of almanac through poetry. That's one of my plans for like a greatest hits of Poetry Respond, looking back at the last decade. Unfortunately, we didn't start like right at a clean decade, though. It started in early 2015. Okay, so let us do the Saiku for this week. And I have to pull it up. I didn't have it ready. The Saiku is based on this article. Here we go. This is from the University of Southwest Sydney. Is that right? It's UNSW Sydney. And this is a study done there for our Saiku for this week. The title is I Ain't Afraid of No Ghosts. People with Mind Blindness, Not So Easily Spooked. The link between mental imagery and emotions may be closer than we thought. And this is the University of, where is it? I don't know, UNSW. I think it just means University of Southwest Sydney, or South. I'm not sure what UNSW stands for. But these researchers basically, and this is an article that is going to be of interest to writers. If you follow the critique of the weeks that we do on Friday, I talk all the time about how important it is to have visuals in a poem. It's very rare to find a poem that works without a lot of visual elements, and I always explain that that's because we're visual creatures. We have half of our neural connections in our brains go to visual processing. I think 40% of all neurons or neural fibers are actually connected to the eyeballs. But 60% of the brain is used for programming images. It's kind of like on my computer. So much is used to process these videos that we do. In the same way your brain works. And so if you want to have an emotional reaction, like we live in a visual world, we're visual creatures, and we're getting more and more visual over time too. We're losing our ability to smell. It's not because our nose doesn't work so well. It's because we're devoting less and less of our brain to the sense of smell over the years through evolution than we are to the visual cortex, because vision is just so important, and it ties in with all our emotions because so many different parts of our brain are doing image processing all the time. And what the researchers here at UNSW did is they took people with let me put this on the screen again. Took people with aphantasia, which is a neurological condition where they can't have images in their head. Like people can't imagine images in their head, or the inability to visualize mental images. That's how they put it here. And what they did is they put them in a dark room and read them spooky stories, and then measured their response through those. Is it called galvanic? What's the word? It's where they hook you up like a lie detector test to measure the electrical resistance on your skin, so how much you're sweating, basically. And what they found is that people who have this condition, aphantasia, don't have these neurological reactions to the scary stories. They don't get scared by the scared stories in the way the control group of neurotypical people did. This research came about, interestingly, because on discussions with people who have aphantasia, people talk about how they have trouble enjoying reading novels because it's a difficulty to see the scenes playing out in your head is part of it. So reading isn't as fun, and so the researchers wanted to figure out if there's more to it than that. And it turns out that our emotional reactions are all tied to the images, which is what poets know all the time, because we really have to use imagery if we want to convey emotion. So I thought it was a good article for everybody who follows the Critiques of the Week on Friday. And this is my tiny little haiku. I only had a tiny amount of time because of the daylight savings time. So I thought a tiny haiku would be the perfect haiku for today. And this is it. Image, a nation. Image, a nation. My tiny haiku for today. That is your saiku. Thanks so much for participating. As always, it's always a pleasure. Thanks to Miguel Barreto Garcia for being the poet of the day today and sharing that poem and talking about mixtapes. Thanks to everybody who shared poems on the open lines. Before we go, let me tell you that this week's guest on the Rattlecast is going to be Wendy Vitalock. And probably everybody knows Wendy Vitalock's work. She's a really frequent contributor to poetry as well as Rattle and Poetry Magazine. She's the author of 4 books, I think. Her most recent is Slingshots and Love Plums. One of the most distinctive poets writing today. There aren't many poets like Wendy Vitalock. And her style of being extremely musical and extremely concise is something that I just love. So I'm really looking forward to talking to her about poetry. The prompt for this week was to write a utopian or dystopian poem. So utopian or dystopian poem. So something, you know what a utopia is, and an impossible place, and you know what a dystopia is. So pick one and write a poem that is a utopian or dystopian poem. And that'll be your prompt for the Rattlecast after we talk to Wendy Vitalock for about an hour. That's Rattlecast number 84, the regular time, Tuesday, 9 p.m. Eastern, March 16th. Hope to see you then. Hope you have a great rest of your Sunday wherever you are. Goodbye.